When Julianna got Amanda exhausted, she was putting hands on her. It ain't like she just choked her out without the hooks. She was putting hands on her. She rocked her.
You know what fight this reminds me of? This reminds me of Charles Oliveira versus Dustin. Because Dustin hurt Charles in the first round, but then he was tired. He was tired for pretty much. He blew his gas in the first round and got tired in the second, got submitted. But the thing is, they're still human. Yeah. They're fighters, but they're still human. Like, we've seen fighters have bad performances, just like we all do.
Yeah.
And that's a big what if, but who's to say this fight don't last 30 seconds and she get a 30-second knockout?
Hey, that's very plausible.
Amanda, she's been champion for so long. These fighters, even if you go and look at Anderson, it's so much footage, so much highlights, their tendencies. You're watching the fight. It's always people that want your crown, they want your belt, they want your championship. So I'm not making no excuse for Amanda, but there is going to be an opponent who's going to come along and they're going to watch your moves and watch your tendencies, and they're going to find a way to beat you eventually. The only fighter that didn't happen to was John Jones. But for 99% of all the other champions, nobody's going to be champion.
Standing up, but at the same time,
see, I disagree with that. I don't think she has to go for a finish. We didn't see Amanda with beautiful jabs. She don't have to fight that type of way.
But she's going to get, over time, she's naturally going to get tired as the fight progresses.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, the more the fight goes on, the more the meter starts to go over into the advantage of Julianna.
Especially if Julianna can initiate the grappling from the beginning. If I'm Julianna, I'm walking forward, but don't get caught with the right hand. Obviously, don't get caught with the left hook. But if I'm Julianna, I'm initiating, I'm applying pressure, and I'm putting all the pressure on Amanda. Well, we're going to see how bad you want. We're going to see, do you want to be champion again?
Yeah.
If I'm Julianna, I'm not fighting on the outside, man.
No, she can't.
I'm not fighting on the outside.
Not until rounds 2 and 3, because she fought on the outside from on the first fight. Showed it all. The moment they got into the second round, with how the grappling was able to tire out Amanda's arms, when they got to the second round, Julianna was able to do something that she would never have been. Dude, she was in the pocket with Amanda. It started off long range, and then when she measured that jab and she started getting that right hand and that left hook, oh, that was another thing that was so beautiful. She was hitting her with the jab, and then right hand, and then she hit her with the jab, right hand, left hook, and that rocked Amanda. Oh, let's not pretend like she didn't hurt Amanda on the feet. Remember that? She actually hurt Amanda.
Oh, no. If they go to distance, Amanda has a clear advantage. Julianna has one decision loss. That's another thing is, we didn't see Amanda win close decisions, even over Valentina.
But though she got some fights where she did go 3 rounds.
I think Amanda is better at that, though. And it's weird to say, because a lot of people, we recognize Amanda's been a knocker artist and a finisher. But I think Amanda is better at that game than Julianna is.
That's under normal circumstances. Yeah. You have to take into account that they have history going into this fight. So even if she has to fight that fight, she has to try to. So you saying she has to try to win long game?
Absolutely.
How's she gonna win the long game when Julianna just showed, hey, the longer the fight go on, the better I'm gonna get, and the more you're gonna get tired.
But that's what
it plays right into Julianna.
But this is what I was saying. I was saying that's Julianna. That should be her approach. Her approach should be to walk forward and apply pressure, and Amanda's approach should be to avoid the takedowns and just make it a sparring match.
After round 2, what is she gonna do? There's a path to victory from both fighters, but the thing about Amanda has the more risky path, because of the fact that she kind of got to get Julianna out of there where I'm losing. I want that energy from the crowd. I want you to tune in. I want you to be there. And she was feeding off the crowd that first time, and if that happens again, boy, oh boy.
You know what fight this reminds me of? This reminds me of Charles Oliveira versus Dustin. Because Dustin hurt Charles in the first round, but then he was tired. He was tired for pretty much. He blew his gas in the first round and got tired in the second, got submitted. But you said, what is Amanda going to do in the second round or after the second round?
What can she do?
But we've also seen Julianna get sloppy with her hands too. So what happens if Julianna can't get the fight to the ground and Amanda can stuff the takedowns and she could just move around?
Well, she did that. That's what happened the first fight and she won. What happens when we get into round 3 and now Amanda's tired, but Julianna knows I just need the rear naked choke? Because I tapped you out without the hooks in, so I know when you get exhausted, you fold. You got to realize that's a huge advantage to go into, because that's not even a skill thing. That's just if the fight go past 2 rounds, if the fight go past 1.5 rounds. Hey, let me tell you something. When Julianna got Amanda exhausted, she was putting hands on her. It ain't like she just choked her out without the hooks. She was putting hands on her. She rocked her. She did jab, jab, okay, jab, right hand, okay, now jab, right hand, left hook. She could have knocked Amanda out if she had put in her mind, I'm gonna knock you out. She could have knocked Amanda out, and there was nothing Amanda could do about it because she was exhausted. Let's talk about that. Bro, this is, like you said, this is a bad stylistic matchup. Now again, Amanda is the greatest woman fighter of all time. She might have learned. Hey, she could do the GSP Matt Serra thing.
Ooh, I was just gonna say
she
that.
might do the GSP on us and show up and come in and say, hey, I'm the best of all time. I'm finna obliterate you and show you that should have never happened.
And that's the thing, like, there are fighters, and Amanda was the champion. Technically, she is still a champion in a different weight class.
A champion.
But the thing is, they're still human.
Yeah.
They're fighters, but they're still human. Like, we've seen fighters have bad performances, just like we all do.
Yeah.
So, like, who's to say we see the original Amanda during this fight? Who's to say, and that's a big what if, but who's to say this fight don't last 30 seconds and she get a 30-second knockout?
Hey, that's very plausible. Hey, who's not to say that Julianna might not go in there and knock her ass out this time? That's also very plausible. Because I'm going to tell you one thing. Amanda has been very quiet, and it seems like it got to her, man. I'm going to tell you something. Julianna been calling for this fight for years. You said it earlier. Has Julianna not been calling her out for years?
Yeah, for years.
Has Julianna not been saying for years? The only thing was she hurt her knee. Remember a few fights after she won Ultimate Fighter, she hurt her knee, and then she was out for like a year or two, and then she came back, and then something. But I remember distinctively, because that was one of the last seasons of the Ultimate Fighter that I watched that I actually cared about. And I remember, and obviously it's hard to forget Julianna. She's beautiful. But the thing is, I remember thinking, why does the Venezuelan vixen keep calling out Amanda Nunes? And I was thinking to myself, like, there is no way she could possibly. I just didn't see it in my head.
You know what that sound like?
But she has literally been saying this for years.
But you know what that sound like? What? I hate to say this, but wasn't Amanda calling out Cyborg?
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
That's what that sound like.
Yeah. Because Amanda did it.
But this is another thing. Amanda, she's been champion for so long. These fighters, even if you go and look at Anderson, it's so much footage, so much highlights, their tendencies. You're watching the fight. It's always people that want your crown, they want your belt, they want your championship. So I'm not making no excuse for Amanda, but there is going to be an opponent who's going to come along and they're going to watch your moves and watch your tendencies, and they're going to find a way to beat you eventually. The only fighter that didn't happen to was John Jones. But for 99% of all the other champions, nobody's going to be champion forever.
And he had some split decisions recently and some close fights that, that's another story, but you could argue that he could have got caught slipping 2 or 3 times. When it comes down to it, it's a lot of pressure to be a champion, and you can get comfortable.
It seems like Julianna's better under pressure.
I know.
When people are doubting her, no, I'm better. It's almost like, I keep comparing her to Miesha Tate because Miesha Tate was like that for a minute. But it's like, if you look, I'm not saying Amanda's cracking under pressure, but it seems like this pressure and Julianna's, her friends and her family don't think she's going to win this fight. It's almost just like, well, I'm going to prove everybody wrong.
I know.
So mentally, I give the mental edge to Julianna.
100%. It's not even close. And I'm going to tell you another thing. Julianna is not walking around like somebody who got lucky to win the belt. That's another thing. We've seen that before where somebody got something and they kind of walking around. It's like this energy of, I'm really excited because I got something I really don't need to have or should have. Julianna's walking around like, hey, I told y'all. I always told y'all. She went on a media tour going to everybody who said she wasn't going to win. She went on the Mike Tyson podcast, and Mike Tyson said, hey, I thought Amanda was going to whoop your butt. And she went on the Pivot podcast and said, and Ryan Clark was talking to her. He was like, hey, I thought Amanda was going to whoop your butt. She's going on a media tour. And look, if you go look at Julianna's interviews, she's talking about how she knew it was going to be a rematch. She's been preparing for the rematch. She didn't go into this thinking, hey, I'm going to just win one time and that's going to be it. She went into it knowing, I'm going to beat her. Then when I beat her, I'm going to have to do the rematch because people are going to think it's a fluke, and I'm going to beat her again. Now, I'm hearing people saying that they think Amanda going to get the second one, and it's going to be a trilogy. If Julianna want to avoid a trilogy, hey, I'll go ahead, I'll seal the deal, put my stamp on it, shut it down, and beat her again, put her away in the same way. But I'm going to tell you one thing, Amanda going to come out very ferocious. I can tell you that for a fact.
I disagree with that. I don't think that'll be her approach. I don't think that'll be a smart approach for her to come out.
It ain't got to be a smart approach.
The UFC fighters go a long time without losing, and then when they lose, like the next time they fight, they don't be the best game plan. They come out and they're getting wild, and their punches are not the best or the cleanest. So I wouldn't be surprised if Amanda say, you know what, all or nothing. I won't be surprised if Amanda has an all or nothing mindset.
Got all these
I'm gonna try to knock her out in the first round by any means, and if I don't, I'm out of it.
Boy.
And that approach might actually work. Their approach might work.
Man, this is a 50-50 fight.
Especially if she can back up, which we know Julianna not going to back up. But if she can back up Julianna and throw that head kick or throw the right hand, it's a wrap.
Well, that's true.
But that's not going to happen. I can almost promise you Julianna is not going to go back. She's not going to do
Not in the beginning, at least.
Not in the beginning, at least.
Well, hold on. Not going to go back. Not toward the end. In the beginning, she better go back. Well, when I say back, I mean be smart with it now. I'm saying use your lateral movement. But you can't walk forward on Amanda either now at the same time. So it's like you got to be mixing everything up. I like Amanda. Amanda has done some things. But one thing about it is when she called out Cyborg, you could have had 2 Brazilian champions, but you just had to be the only one. You just had to be the only one. And when they made that fight, I told you I didn't like that. Remember?
Absolutely.
I didn't. I think that was so. I think that was selfish. I think that was very, in hindsight, it was very immature. Because now you got rid of Cyborg legacy, and now look at yours. Just you lost your stuff.
And we never got to see them fight again. I know it's a whole different fight, but Amanda calls herself the female GOAT in MMA, which I agree. But we never got to see who was the real female GOAT because they only fought once.
Because that should have been the second one. And now you get your rematch, but Cyborg didn't get no rematch. And, you know, so I'm going with Julianna.
You know what'd be funny though? It'd be funny if Julianna beat her and then go up in featherweight and beat her and take that belt too.
Boy, that'd be disrespectful.
It's funny how nobody is talking about that.
That would be super.
I'm the real GOAT.
Because realistically, if Julianna can win a second time, the only third fight that would make sense at this point is that what if she go up? Now that would be the most interesting way to get a trilogy that I've ever been able to think of in history. I don't think nobody else has even thought about that. That makes so much sense. God, dog. But who you going with ultimately though?
I'm gonna go with Julianna. I think she's a bad matchup for Amanda Nunes. If Amanda was fighting anybody else, I would choose Amanda. Even if she was fighting Valentina, I'd choose Amanda. But she's fighting Julianna. Her mindset. Julianna is on right now, and she really believes she's a champion, even though she is. But she really believes she has Amanda's number,
and she got to win because she got to run this one back. This is gonna be her next one. Valentina Shevchenko. So I'm going with Julianna as well. Now, of course, we wouldn't be surprised if we go the other way. We just factoring in certain things. Look, Amanda might go in there and start her in 2 minutes. But when we start playing this game of if you didn't get your way in the first round and you completely blew it, okay, I got to pick the other person. I don't care if you're fighting Pee Wee Herman. I got to go with the other person, especially if they've proven they can survive you the first time. Because when you get exhausted, all of your skills go out of the window. That is just a fact. That is the only, because we know what Julianna bringing. She bringing that toughness. She gonna be ready down the stretch. Look, if she can get it early, she gonna get it. I've seen her do that. I watched all her fights. Now I'm gonna tell you this: if Amanda cannot control that cardio, she's out of there. She's done for. But let us know what y'all think. Like and subscribe.